You're here, I'm here. Let's get started. But at this point, you probably have heard that The Sims 4 is essentially sponsoring a fanfic contest. And if you hadn't, now you have. There is a introductory video on TikTok where the contest is being held and where submissions need to be uploaded. But let's have a quick look at the website with all of the info. We start here with finish the story nature began in a world of enchantment and longing. Only you can complete the final pages. Pick up where Mother Nature left off in Foraging for Desire, the first ever romantasy you can finish by playing The Sim. A very interesting concept here. I don't know if I've ever seen another IP do it quite this way, but we do know there's a lot of storytelling that goes on in The Sims. I myself do some, so it's not that big of a leap to ask players to complete a story that The Sims team has started for you. Continuing on, we do have a synopsis here for the story Foraging for Desire. And it says, where fairies walk among Sims, transformation comes with more than wings. When Leora sheds her old life, she finds herself caught between two powerful forces. Milo, the sensitive forest guardian with secrets of his own, and Orin, a dangerously charming fairy with deeper plans than flirtation. As magical impulses awaken and forbidden feelings spark, a tangled mystery unfurls beneath the ancient willow. Crushes get complicated, fairy dust flies, and someone may not make it out of the grove unscathed. There's love, lust, and someone watching from the shadows. Lips lie, magic tempts, hearts race faster under a full moon. When longing turns enchanted, anything can happen. Sim it and see. Below, we have where we can actually read the story that the team has prepared. Read the spicy tale. Leora is catching feelings fast, and she's not the only one. Sparks fly, secrets swirl, and woohoo's on the table. Desire just got enchanted. The story is up on Wattpad for you to read. I believe it's 28 parts. It does estimate just under a 2-hour reading time. I did start to read it. I haven't finished it at the time of recording this video. I may do a follow-up in the future, just kind of with my thoughts on the unfinished story. And here we have the prompt. Decide how it ends, who will be betrayed, who will be chosen, and who will fall under love's spell. The final chapter is yours to play. Sim it and see. And I'm assuming the link here just takes you probably to the EA store where you can download The Sims 4, which we all know is free for the base game. So what does this mean? Sim it, share it, win it. Finish the story in-game and share gameplay of the most romantic, tragic, or unexpected twist on TikTok with hashtag #SimYourFantasy. One standout author will grace the story's front cover and win a 3-day fairy core getaway, including a physical copy of Foraging for Desire, perfect for rereading, underlining, and sharing. But what I really wanted to make this video about is the terms and conditions. I know a lot of people don't read them. I don't always either, I'll be honest. But when it's something smaller like this, it's a lot easier to get through. And so I will have a look, which is what we are going to do together. Now, I do want to preface this by saying I am not a lawyer. I am not a tax advisor. I don't have any legal advice to give. There's no legal financial advice at all that I am offering here. This is just my interpretation of the content that's in the terms and conditions. We're going to jump right in at the eligibility. This contest is open only to legal residents of the 50 United States and the District of Columbia who are 18 years of age or older at the date of entry. If you're under 18, you can't participate. If you live outside of the 50 states and DC, you cannot participate. I mean, you can, but you're not eligible for the prize. Timing. The contest entry period begins on or about 9 a.m. Pacific time on July 30th. So the contest is already going with an expected end time around just before midnight on August 15th. There are a few more days to go if you were interested in participating. After the entry period has ended, there is, of course, the judging period, and that will begin on August 18th and end about August 20th. The team will have roughly 2 days to review the entries. How to participate? Obviously, you need to make an entry to participate. To do so, you would need to make a video not to exceed 2 minutes that plays out your idea of the ending of the book. They do have a note in here that it is recommended that The Sims Expansion Pack 19, which is the Enchanted by Nature pack that just came out, is utilized when creating your video, but it is not required. I do think it would help immensely once we have a review of the scoring criteria. Obviously, the story relies heavily on fairies. There's been mention of ailments and herbalism and things like that. Of course, it's going to be much easier to enact those things in your video if you have that expansion pack. You don't need it though. If you do really great storytelling without it, fine. Actually posting your video entries. Of course, this needs to be on TikTok itself. If you don't have a TikTok account, you need one. No other social media channel is applicable. It is only on TikTok. You also need to be a follower of The Sims. If you're not already following, you need to compose a new post mentioning at The Sims and include the hashtag/keywords, Sim Your Fantasy, and contest. You must have all of this in there to be considered as a valid entry. It is worth noting that you cannot just follow The Sims and then unfollow after you post. They do have a line in here that you must be a follower of The Sims for at least 60 days after the entry period for winner notification purposes. We'll get to that a little bit later, but it is just if someone is not able to claim the prize, they kind of go down the list of who's next available and then try to give them the prize and so on. You need to meet the criteria until that's resolved. You are only allowed one entry per person. That's not really a surprise. They do want to keep it fair and don't have people spamming. There's a line here that says all materials submitted become the property of the sponsor and will not be returned. There's more to come on this one, but short form, anything you submit to the contest becomes property of EA, essentially. Entry requirements. There's a long list here. I'm not going to cover all of it. It's the usual things. Your entry must not exceed a teen rating because that's what the Sims 4 game is. You shouldn't have any gambling, no illegal drugs, firearms, violence, things like that, of course. No personally identifiable information. You can't disparage the sponsor, meaning EA. You can't contain any material that infringes on another person's property or rights. You can only use royalty-free music or actual Sims 4 gameplay audio provided you have the stream safe setting on. But the big one that I have highlighted here is no mods. And I'm going to take this to mean absolutely zero. So, no cosmetic mods to enhance the graphics, no fairy mods that are not the Enchanted by Nature pack. Basically, you got to keep your game vanilla for your entry. I don't know if everyone will have read that part, but I don't want anyone who has a really great video be disqualified on something like, oh, I used this mod to just make the skin look a little bit more realistic. And that technicality is what gets them booted out of the contest. So keep that in mind. Absolutely no mods for your entry. Turn them off. Or at the very least, make sure they're mods that are not visible. If you have mods to help pose or have your Sims do actions, maybe those are a little more lenient because you need to set up the scene for your video. But in general, no mods allowed. Here is the big one about your entry and what that means in relation to the sponsor or to EA. And so you can read right here, you waive any and all claims you may have had, may have, and or may have in the future that any other entry reviewed and or used by a sponsor may be similar to your entry, and you understand that you will not be entitled to any compensation or right to negotiate with the contest parties because of the sponsor's use of such other similar or identical material. This one is saying the prompt is the same for everyone. It's very likely that people will have the same ideas or execute things in a similar way. You do not have any claim over those original ideas or those original actions. If the winning entry does something that you did and they won and you didn't, basically can't make a fuss about it. License to submissions. Entrant, upon submission of the entry to the contest, irrevocably grants to the sponsor and each of its licensees, successors, and assigns the non-exclusive, perpetual, royalty-free, no-cost license and right to use and otherwise exploit the entries and all images, text, and materials included or depicted therein, in whole or in part, in any manner or medium now or hereafter known or devised, including without limitation, CDs, streaming media, film, television, video cassettes, print, interactive devices, mobile media, internet, and online systems throughout the universe, and in any and all languages, including, without limitation, the right to display, reproduce, recreate, record, perform, exhibit, distribute, copy, edit, change, modify, add to, subtract from, retitle, and adapt the same to combine it with other material and otherwise use and exploit it without having to give any compensation or attribution to entrants or any third party except for the awarding of the prize to the winner in this contest. To summarize, when you submit your video to this contest, you no longer have any rights over it. Anything that happens with your video after you post it to TikTok is at the sole discretion of EA and any of their companies, and they can use it however they like. They do not have to necessarily credit you. They do not have to provide you any compensation. They can use it however, whenever they like. If you're fine with it, fine. If you're not, take that into consideration. Another one to note is that entrants agree that during the entry period, they shall not make and shall not permit any other public use, display, or distribution of the entries. So our entry period is until the 18th of August, if I remember correctly. And this is essentially saying you cannot post this anywhere else besides TikTok. That is where it is meant to be, only post it there. This line is basically a shorter version of the earlier one. Entrants hereby forever waive and relinquish all moral rights now or hereafter recognized in connection with entries submitted as part of the contest. So you've got that one as well. Moving on to the judging period and winner selection. This is good to know if you are really trying to win of what they are actually judging your entry on. And you can kind of tailor it to fit this. It is broken down by percentage, which is nice. Keep that in mind. The first of those being thematic resonance, 30%. Gameplay that showcases one or more thematic features, use of magic, crafting, or drinking an elixir, enchanting a plant, etc. So this is why they lean so heavy into it is recommended to have Enchanted by Nature, since 30% of their scoring is going to be based around some version of that. Again, obviously easier if you already have the pack that they're intending you to have. Next is creativity and originality, 20%. An unexpected, fun, and thrilling ending. A unique spin of the story that makes it especially memorable and surprising. As I said earlier, I haven't finished the story. I am maybe a third of the way through. I don't really know what's going to be unexpected, fun, or thrilling for this. In my opinion, it's a pretty basic love triangle at this point. Maybe a love quadrangle. We'll leave it at that. So yeah, keep that in mind. They are looking for something that is unique and unexpected. Next, we have character development at 15%. The choices made by each character should be informed by the written story while also driving it forward. Characters should not regress, but instead behave in a way that relates to growth and a new chapter or a fresh start. This is an interesting one. Of course, we want to see character development. Usually that's something that's spread out over the whole story, not just shoved into a 2-minute conclusion at the end. But I understand what they're getting at with this. You want to see the characters develop into something more than what they were at the start of the story. And so in some way, shape, or form, you should find a way to communicate that through your video. Element of suspense, surprise, or humor, 15%. A storyline filled with twists and turns. The more chaotic within the T rating, the better. Of course, the story should be in line with The Sims tone. We know that The Sims can be a little bit goofy sometimes. We know that people like to be surprised, to have a twist ending that they weren't expecting. So I can see this as well, as you want a memorable conclusion to your story. And on that note, storyline resolution, 20%. The submission should have a clear ending, no cliffhangers. So it needs to be very, very clear that the story is finished, whatever that may be. You can't do some dramatic dramatic lead up and a blackout. You need to have an ending to the story. Winner notification and prize claiming. The potential winner will be notified via direct message on TikTok within 5 days after the judging period. With that in mind, we know the judging period ends on August 20th. So between the 20th and the 25th, the winner should receive a direct message on TikTok. Also worth noting, the potential winner will be required to complete and submit a prize redemption form and a declaration of eligibility, release of liability within 5 days of notification. If you end up being the winner, keep that in mind that you've got 5 days to respond and fill out that form. Now, what is the prize? We mentioned it earlier, but it is a little bit different here. On the website, it said the prize is a copy, but here it says the prize is 3 copies of the final Forage for Desire and 3-day 2-night trip for 2 people, the winner and one guest. The destination of the trip will be chosen by the sponsor and disclosed to the winner at the time of notification. Travel must be completed by August 1st, 2026, a little less than a year to ensure that trip is completed. Trip will include round trip airfare, hotel accommodation, and meals or comparable travel stipend. All trip details are determined by the sponsor in its sole discretion. So everything is up to EA on this one. And the approximate retail value of the prize is $4,500. Also worth noting, travel must be taken on dates specified by the sponsor, meaning EA gets to pick when your trip is. I don't know if there's any flexibility around stuff you may have going on in your personal life or vacation time or things like that, but that's what it says here. It's up to EA to determine those dates. Winner and guest must travel on the same itinerary. If the winner resides within a 100-mile radius of the selected destination as determined by sponsor in its sole discretion, ground transportation may be provided in lieu of air transportation and no compensation will be provided for any difference in price value. Not sure where this getaway is meant to be, but it does sound like it will be somewhere within the US. Sponsor bears no responsibility if any event, element, or detail of the prize is canceled, postponed, or becomes unavailable for any reason. EA is not responsible if something goes wrong. Should any event, element, or detail of the prize become unavailable, the sponsor shall have no obligation to the winner aside from providing the remaining portion of the prize minus any unavailable event, element, or detail. If something's not available, then they don't have to give you any of it. They don't have to make up for it. It's just, oh well. Prize is non-transferable with no cash redemptions, equivalents, or substitutions except at the sponsor's sole and absolute discretion. What this means, kind of in combination with the earlier one, is if something is unavailable, they don't have to make up the difference to you in cash. All right, so now we get to the tax portion. Reminder, I am not a tax expert. I am not giving any tax advice. I am just reading and interpreting my own opinion. The value of the prize will be reported for tax purposes as required by law. The winner will be required to provide sponsor with a valid social security number before the prize will be awarded for tax reporting purposes. An IRS Form 1099 will be issued in the name of the winner for the actual value of the prize received. What this means is, one, you have to be comfortable giving your social security number. And two, when it comes time to do your taxes, you will have to report the value on this 1099 as income. Now remember, the value of the prize is up to $4,500. This is something I have heard of quite frequently with people who win prizes or receive gifts, that because they have to claim that value, it has the potential to increase the amount of taxes that they owe for that tax year. But just keep that in mind that it will be reported as income on your taxes and you will be taxed accordingly. And finally, sponsor will attempt to fulfill the prize within approximately 4 to 6 weeks after winner verification. So if you think about this, let's say the winner is notified on August 22nd. That means they're trying to send someone on this trip between end of September to like mid-October. It's very soon. So keep that in mind if you are really committed and think you have a strong entry, that they are going to try to send you on the trip before the year is done. Some more general information. So we did cover that the sponsor has rights over your contest entry, but we've got some more going on here. Subject to applicable law, each entrant hereby expressly grants to the contest parties and their respective successors, assigned sublicensees and designees, the irrevocable right to use and publish his her name, entry, social handles, likeness, photogenic or simulated, voice, biography, and place of residence for all purposes, including without limitation, advertising, marketing, promotional, and publicity purposes in connection with this contest advertising in any and all media now or hereafter, devised worldwide in perpetuity without any form of notice, permission, or any amount or kind of compensation except for the awarding of the prize. If you win and you agree to the prize, EA has the right to use your name, your likeness, your TikTok ID, your voice, any information about you within reason forever. So 20 years from now, your face could pop up on an ad of like, hey, remember when we did this contest back then? So it does have to be connected to this contest, but it can be whenever they decide to do that. There you have it. We have read through what I feel like are some of the biggest pieces of information to know from the terms and conditions. Of course, I encourage you to spend some time and read the whole thing. It's not the most exciting piece of information, but if you are going to submit something to this contest, I really recommend you spend the time to do so. Thanks for going through all this with me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.